In 1924, a man named Bert Benjamin convinced International Harvester to build a tractor every farmer in America called ridiculous. Tiny front wheels, enormous back wheels, the whole thing rolling on a tricycle layout. 7 years later, he'd sold 134,000 of them and put Henry Ford out of the tractor business. 100 years on, every tractor on Earth still copies that design. But the real reason for those impossible-looking wheels isn't what you think. It's hidden 3 feet underground. It's costing U.S. farms hundreds of millions every 2 years. And it only makes sense once you understand one bizarre fact about stiletto heels and battle tanks. Look at any tractor. Really look at it. The rear wheels are taller than you are, wide as a refrigerator, aggressive treads, deep lugs. The front wheels, small, smooth, almost embarrassing, like they belong on a different machine entirely. Now look at every other vehicle on Earth. Your car, matching tires. Pickup truck, matching tires. School bus, garbage truck, ambulance, matching tires. A giant mining haul truck moving 400 tons of payload, 8 wheels, all identical. A 70-ton Caterpillar bulldozer, an M1 Abrams tank, an 8-wheeled armored personnel carrier, matching wheels, everyone. The tractor is the only machine on Earth that breaks the rule, and it's been breaking it for 100 years. So why does the hardest working machine on a farm, a 21-ton John Deere with nearly 700 horsepower from a 13.6-liter diesel, refuse to follow the rule everyone else follows? Here's the part everyone gets wrong. The instinct, big wheels equal heavy load, bigger tire, more weight it can carry. Makes sense, feels right. It's also completely wrong. Because that 21-ton John Deere, fully loaded, ballast-packed monster of a machine, actually presses less weight onto each square inch of ground than your Honda Civic does on its way to Costco. The big tires aren't doing the obvious job. They're doing something nobody outside agriculture even talks about. Those giant rear wheels aren't there because the tractor is heavy. They're there because the dirt is alive. That's the entire trick. Most people look at a farm field and see brown dirt. Flat, plain, ordinary. The opposite is true. A single teaspoon of healthy topsoil contains more living organisms than there are humans on Earth. Bacteria, fungi, microscopic insects, root threads, all working together, building tiny air pockets, drainage channels, and nutrient highways that feed every plant above ground. This underground structure isn't decorative. It's the entire reason a seed turns into a meal, and it's shockingly fragile. When something heavy rolls across with concentrated force, those air pockets collapse. The particles lock together. The soil hardens from the inside out, sometimes 2 or 3 feet down, completely invisible from above. Farmers call this compaction. And here's the part nobody talks about. Jason Lee, a field agronomist with AGCO, put it bluntly in a crop tour study. About 70 to 80% of soil compaction happens on first contact. One wheel, one pass. Once those air channels collapse, they don't come back. Penn State Extension found deep subsoil compaction still measurable 12 years after the original damage. 12 years. That's not a wound. That's a scar that never heals. One bad day with the wrong tire can cost a farmer yields for the next decade. So every time a tractor crosses a field, it faces the same impossible problem. Do the job without destroying the very ground that makes the job possible. That tension is exactly what shaped the wheels you've been ignoring your whole life. Now back to that strange fact from the top. Walk through a parking lot. Every tire, cars, SUVs, pickups, pressing the asphalt at roughly 30 pounds per square inch, standard. Now imagine a 60-ton M1 Abrams battle tank rolling onto the same lot. 60 tons, solid steel armor. Every instinct says it should leave craters. It doesn't. An Abrams puts about 15 pounds per square inch into the ground, half the pressure of your Toyota Camry, because those wide tracks spread the weight across an enormous footprint. Now picture a 130-pound woman walking across that same lot in stiletto heels. The tip of each heel is about the size of a pencil eraser. According to engineering tables and theory of ground vehicles, that single point can push roughly 470 pounds per square inch into the floor. Read that one more time. A pencil eraser of high heel outcrushes the heaviest battle tank in the U.S. military by a factor of more than 30. Every tractor engineer has been bending over backwards to use for 100 years. The enemy isn't weight. The enemy is concentrated weight. You don't protect a delicate surface, soil, snow, a hardwood floor, by making the vehicle lighter. You make the contact patch enormous. A typical car tire touches the ground over an area the size of a paperback book. A loaded tractor tire, deformed under weight, spreads that footprint closer to the size of a pizza box. Same load, triple the area. With modern VF flotation tires running at 6 to 12 psi in the field, that 21-ton tractor presses less weight into each square inch of soil than your kid riding a bicycle. The giant rear wheel isn't a strength tool, it's a stealth tool. But this still leaves an obvious question. If big wheels are so good, why aren't the front wheels big too? That brings us back to Bert Benjamin in 1924. For more than a decade, Benjamin had been quietly building experimental machines as assistant chief engineer at International Harvester. His problem wasn't power. Ford's mass-produced Fordson already had plenty of that. His problem was the row crop. Corn, cotton, soybeans planted in long parallel rows just inches apart. A Fordson would plow a field beautifully, then crush half the harvest trying to cultivate between the rows. Benjamin's answer was almost stupidly simple. Build one machine that does two opposite jobs with two opposite ends. The rear of the tractor handles power. Heavy components, engine, transmission, hydraulics, sit directly above the rear axle. That stacks weight exactly where you need traction. The huge rear tires then turn that traction into grip without crushing the soil. Same physics as a snowshoe distributing your weight on snow, except the snowshoe is made of rubber and weighs 400 pounds. The front wheels do something completely different. They don't transfer power to the ground at all. They steer through rows planted 6 inches apart, around irregular field edges, through tight headland turns at the end of every pass. When Benjamin's Farm All Regular finally rolled out of the factory in February 1924, farmers laughed at it. Funny looking, they called it. By 1931, 134,000 of those funny-looking tractors had sold. Ford pulled out of the U.S. tractor market entirely, and every major tractor manufacturer on Earth, John Deere, Case, Kubota, Massey Ferguson, copied the basic geometry. Here's where the story turns dark. Modern tractors keep getting bigger, heavier, more horsepower. The 9R640 weighs 21 tons unloaded and can be ballasted to almost 30. Even with the smartest tires on the market, the math gets harder every year, and there's another problem nobody talks about. The big rear tires only protect the dirt directly under them. Everything in between gets driven over by something else. The planter, the sprayer, the combine, the grain cart. In a typical conventional field, 70 to 90% of the soil gets driven on at least once during the growing season, every season. That hidden damage adds up. A 2020 study from North Dakota State University and the University of Minnesota tried to put a dollar number on it. They estimated that just in those two states, for every 10% of farmland compacted during the 2019 harvest, farmers were looking at $587 million in losses over the following 2 years. If 30% of the land was affected, and given how wet that fall was, it probably was, the bill jumped to $1.75 billion. Researchers in Australia documented canola crops growing on tractor wheel tracks producing only 34% of the yield of canola growing 2 feet to the side. Same field, same seed, same rain. 2/3 of the harvest gone because a tire rolled there once. The cutting-edge fix is called controlled traffic farming. Use GPS to keep every wheel of every machine, tractor, sprayer, combine, grain cart, running the exact same tram lines year after year. The trafficked area drops from 70 to 90% of the field down to 15 or 20%. The rest of the field never feels a wheel. Same machines, same wheel, just a smarter pattern. Next time you push a cart through your supermarket, look at the price of a loaf of bread, the price of a head of lettuce, the price of a steak. None of those numbers exist in isolation. Every single one is downstream of a question Bert Benjamin asked himself in a workshop in Illinois more than 100 years ago. How do you build a machine powerful enough to plow a field, gentle enough not to destroy it, and small enough to thread between the rows of the food it's going to harvest? The wheels he designed are still the answer, and every wet spring in Iowa, every soggy harvest in North Dakota, every farmer caught between getting the crop in and protecting next year's soil, that decision flows straight through to your grocery bill. Those giant rear tires aren't a weird design quirk. They're the most expensive square inch of engineering and agriculture. And every time you eat, you're a downstream beneficiary of 100 years of people getting that physics exactly right. So next time you drive past a tractor crawling through a muddy field, you won't just see oversized wheels. You'll see ground pressure math, soil biology, and 100 years of bizarre-looking proportions doing exactly what they were designed to do.